Welcome back to the Pathfinders podcast. I'm your host, Pete Schramm, and we're going to dive into the career journeys of great people with exciting paths. Our conversation is going to align with the Pathfinders methodology. Pretty cool book. It's going to hit on the career maps of our guests, a representation of their professional journeys, past, present, and future. Reminder that we go through the 5 dimensions of a career map: the titles and positions, skills, achievements and accomplishments, education and certs, and some that fun stuff. Again, past, present, future. The cool flair about this is we're going to weave in some of the folks that helped our guests get there along the way, multiple advisors or guides or mentors. We call it the Personal Board of Advisors, PBA for short. We'll share these podcasts on LinkedIn, of course. Please make sure you comment, and we'll also have them on the other podcasting platforms. You know how we get started before we get started is with a quote from our guest. If one advances confidently in the direction of their dream and endeavors to live the life they've imagined, they will meet with success unexpected in common hours. Henry David Thoreau. Our guest today is David McGlennen. He's a leadership and growth guide who helps companies grow, lead, and serve in the new era of business. He has coached and trained leaders around the world as far north as the Arctic Circle, and has shared the stage with John C. Maxwell while training leaders in Paraguay, South America. His specialty is choreographing and facilitating conversations among emerging and advancing leaders to foster greater learning, performance, and teamwork. I've seen him in action. I've heard people that have been through his stuff, partnered with him, worked with him. He rocks. He's literally done this all over the world. And I'm excited to dive in today. Again, David's run a multi-million-dollar budgets. He's owned several startup businesses, whereas leadership and discipline have been a cornerstone for success. And sure, he's a rock star in the professional setting, but he's no slouch on the personal side either. Congratulations, 35 years of marriage with his lovely bride, father of 5 adult children, some back in the Pittsburgh area, but David most definitely slightly north of Pittsburgh. And a fun fact, maybe he'll share a little bit more of his days of being a flight instructor. So David, welcome up to the stage. Thanks for joining Pathfinders today.
Hey, Pete, it is great to be with you. I am so excited. And gosh, yes, it seems like yesterday that I was a flight instructor. And, the interesting thing about that is that I never necessarily wanted to be a flight instructor, but I tell you what, I always wanted to find a way for somebody else to pay for my habits and pay for my flying habit. I thought, well, okay, I'll become a flight instructor. That way people pay me to teach them how to fly and I get up in the air. So that's the story behind the story there.
Wow. So it's safe to say that your career has soared to new heights in other ways. But how long ago were you flying and what were you flying?
Oh, my goodness. So it was back in, 1987. 1987, I started flying. So my senior year in college, I actually kind of like incorporated it into my last semester of school. And so I got my private pilot's license in June of 1987. And then from there, got my other certifications, got my instrument rating, commercial pilot's license, and then my flight instructor certificate. And so really, I flew from probably 1987 till real seriously till about 1995, something like that. I was flying, small aircrafts. I typically would teach in a little Cessna 152. So it's basically you wouldn't fit in it, buddy. It's like a Volkswagen. I mean, I could not extend my hand and touch the other door. So little Cessna 152s are pretty small, but then I was flying 172, Cessna 172s and Cessna 210s and some, just single engine aircraft, basically.
Nice. I love it. So we'll kind of rewind before the days of flying. What did younger David aspire to be? Those childhood dreams. When I grow up, I want to be this. What was that for you?
It's funny. Just thinking about this question, there were a couple of things that I wanted to be. But as I started out my college journey, I wanted to be a musician. I was really heavily into jazz. I thought I was going to be a music teacher for a little while. And then I took my first music theory class. So I wasn't I wasn't blessed enough to have music theory in high school. But when I took my first music theory class, it became readily apparent that this probably wasn't the path for David. And so I switched to a business administration degree. And but yeah, I originally wanted to be a musician, and that was kind of what I thought I was gonna do for my career. But things change, and that's the thing. That's one of the things I've learned along the path is that you can change things. Nothing's forever.
So you went to school for business administration. Where did you go to school? What were some of the classes that you took whenever you were there that maybe one or two or three things went into your toolbox that you utilized beyond graduation?
Yeah. So I went to a little college in Fort Wayne, Indiana called St. Francis College. It was St. Francis College at the time. It's now the University of St. Francis.
Not to get confused with St. Francis of Loretto.
That's right. It's not. Same name, different different place. And I might add that I think they were like 5 times a Division III football champion. So I think they're a D3 champion. So anyway, but the class that I took that I've actually used most of my career were my accounting classes. Believe it or not, I have used my accounting classes so frequently because it's given me the opportunity to understand financial decisions, understand financial statements, what they mean, and the story behind the numbers. And so I was really, because the college was so small, we had professors, adjunct professors, come in from the community. And my accounting professor was a CFO of a major company in Fort Wayne. And what was really cool about that is that we would, of course, go through a book, read, certain chapters, certain aspects of accounting, and he would teach about those. And he would say, now look, the book says to do it this way, but if you ever did this in my business, I would fire you because this is not a practical way to do this. And so he would teach us kind of real world examples and real world ways to do, whatever it was that we were learning. But so that's the long answer to your question. But the accounting was so valuable to me, and even kind of at the same time, he also taught a taxation class that was really, really important as well. And I've used that a lot. I mean, tax laws have changed since I went to college, but still the principles were the same. So those are great classes that I remember taking.
Got it. Okay. Thanks for sharing. And it's cool to see how so many of our guests talk about the importance of understanding the dollars, right? Whether you're in a finance role or not, whether you're an entrepreneur and, in charge of the P&L at the end of the day, or you're in a lot of, guests or high up HR leaders, right? They have a budget, but they're not necessarily responsible for rev gen and business development. But it's to still be able to understand how everything comes together. I think that's the takeaway for all the listeners is whatever role you're in, understand where the money is made, what the expenses are, dollars in, dollars out. Even if you don't own the P&L, profit and loss, or you don't own or are responsible for a budget, ask your leader, ask somebody on the finance team, like, hey, what am I part of? I think that's just a good leadership development principle. And it's probably something that you took along the way in your career. So you're not flying any planes any longer. You're not doing musical stuff. You're graduated from the St. Francis. That's not in Pennsylvania. Where'd you take your talents, David?
Yeah, so I really entered into the industry that my father and my grandfather were in. I was in the insurance business for 32 years. So as I started out my career, I actually worked for a financial advisor right out of college who worked with some high wealthy individuals and high net worth individuals. and decided that that wasn't the path that I really wanted to take. I really wanted to be in the insurance industry. So I then, went to work with my dad. And so we started an insurance agency. It was a managing general agency. And so we had a number of different brokers that worked through us we were like a wholesaler for health insurance for the state of Indiana. And so I was in that industry for, like I said, 32 years, a variety of different experiences. I both was a personal producer. So I sold, basically worked my way through college selling life insurance, if you can imagine that. A 21-year-old kid, 22-year-old kid selling life insurance to folks that had families. That was a challenge, but I learned so much about the process of connecting with people and helping them with their financial security and protecting their assets and their families and so that industry taught me a lot, and also working with my dad taught me a lot too. He really is one of the key mentors for me because he brought me along and allowed me to watch him in action as we built that business. He was our president, our CEO, and I learned so much just kind of being alongside of him, and then eventually took over the business. And then we sold the business to a large insurance company back in 1995, I guess it was.
Congratulations. So at what point did you get into this speaking, training, hanging out with Mr. Maxwell, going up to the Arctic Circle? Is that just like a side gig between being a rock star, family member and, selling your business? Like, how's that come into the picture, man?
Yeah. So I call that my midlife awakening. Yeah. So interestingly, kind of fast forwarding a number of years into my career, and actually the last segment of my insurance industry career, I was part of a startup company, and we were in the wellness space. So I was able to really couple my wellness fascination, my wellness focus with my employee benefits knowledge. And it was a great experience, but that takes a toll on anyone, really. I think startups are really tough. So I was at a point in my life where I turned 50, and I was just really kind of questioning what I was going to do with the next season of my life. And we had brought in some private equity. I was able to take some chips off the table. And then I started Impact Leadership Consulting a couple of years later, because I really wanted to impact companies that valued their people. And I really had this passion then too for emerging leaders, because as I thought back on my career, my dad was really great at showing me what he did and what worked for him, but he really had no formal way to mentor me and to create a path for me for succession. And so now I'm helping emerging leaders to have that foundation, to know how to communicate, how to talk off the top of their head, how to be able to connect with people. And so it was really at that point in my career where I really wanted to be able to, I guess, move from success to significance. And I made an intentional path turn to actually doing some speaking, doing coaching, and then being able to facilitate conversations with groups of people and running strategic planning sessions and retreats and so forth. So that's the story of how that came about.
Talk to us a little bit more about some of the skills and achievements that are on the past portion of your career map that you said, hey, I need to get here before I'm able to go out on my own? Because I'm guessing you probably saw over 32 years learning from your dad, probably some other great people. We'll talk about other members of your PBA in a moment here.
Mhm.
But did you have some things in your head that said, okay, I need to be able to do this? Maybe it's selling the business before I can go to that next step. Because whenever we think about the career map, we can say, okay, I've been here, done that. And how does that help me look forward to, track A, B, or C as I'm progressing, right? And this is maybe early
Yeah.
career, mid-career, but how does that keep changing? So did you have some of those milestones, inch stones in your head, David, as you're saying, hey, I got, boom, 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 and then?
Um, as I look back, as I think back, I don't know that I was consciously aware of those points along the way.
Yeah.
But I did know that I needed to continue to build my skills. And so one of the things that I did is for example, I joined Toastmasters. So if you're not familiar with Toastmasters, it's a speaking organization, kind of like a speaking club. And so every week, you're getting a chance to speak in front of a group of people. Sometimes, depending on the size of the club, it could be small, it could be large, but it gives you a chance to create that skill of public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, for me was step one for giving me confidence in just being able to connect with people. And I took that skill into then the next part of my career, and being able to, to sell to Fortune 500 companies, connect with executives, be able to really communicate with them, because I had the confidence that no matter what somebody asked me or said, I was pretty sure that I could at least respond to it, even if it was an I don't know, but let me get back with you. That was a skill that I think was really impactful and important for my leadership development. So to answer your question, I don't know that I was really super intentional and conscious with my career path.
Yeah.
But I certainly have been since I started my company. And, those are some of the things. One of the things that we talked about off camera just a little bit is being intentional with my time off and being able to free up my mind on my sabbaticals. I take a sabbatical every year for the past couple of years, and that's helped me to disengage and to be able to think strategically and think into the future. And so, I've been much more intentional now.
So you're able to slow down and turn off so that you can speed up and really flourish. Talk
100%.
to us about what goes into a sabbatical. How long do you take off? And was there a final straw where you said, I need to change the way I'm doing this? What kind of pushed you over the edge to say, green light, thumbs up, sabbatical is yes for me?
Well, interestingly, so I have my own coach, and one of the things that I happened to mention to him, this has been 3 years ago now, but it was a conversation kind of at the end of a session, and I said, one of the things that I've been thinking about, and I'd really like to do at some point, is to take a sabbatical and just take 30 days off. And of course, being a great coach, the question that came back to me was, well, when are you going to do that? And I said, I probably next year. When next year? And so eventually it got down to, when will you put that in your calendar? And so I said, okay, I'll put it in my calendar in July. So long story short, that was really the catalyst for me taking some time off. And honestly, as I, kind of think back on why I did it, is because a couple of reasons. Number one of the mentors I'll call it a mentor from afar, because I know you talk a lot about having a board of advisors. Well,
yeah.
Sometimes those board of advisors don't necessarily need to be like physically present in your life. I have books. You can see my desk. I've got a book, As a Man Thinketh. So James Allen, he's long dead. Donald Miller, Coach Builder. So some of those are my personal board of directors. And so one of those people was a guy by the name of Michael Hyatt, who was a CEO at Thomas Nelson Publishers. And he was talking about his own personal sabbatical and how important that was for him to disengage. And so because I respect him so much and have really admired what he's done, I mean, he's multiple New York Times best-selling author. And because of that, I said, you know what? If he can do that, I'd like to do that too. I have no idea how I'll do it. I've never taken off 2 weeks in a row. So, taking 30 days off, that was a big deal. So interestingly, then what I did is I worked with my coach, and I also almost chickened out too. So, full disclosure, in January so that conversation with my coach was in August. In January with my mastermind, it kind of slipped out, and I said something about a sabbatical. And I'm like, dang it. Now I've got to do it.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how that accountability is so powerful. And so there's a lot of planning involved. So I had to pre-plan a lot of things, and I had to be able to hand off my clients to him actually. And he agreed. I paid him to do the coaching for my clients. And so it was a great experience. And I learned so much, and I enjoyed it so much that I did it a second year. So this past year, I took my second 30-day sabbatical, disengaged, just really enjoyed time with the family, enjoyed time away. I love hiking, so I was out in the woods an awful lot. So it was a great experience, and I highly recommend taking time off. And the mentality of working all the time and never taking vacation, it's just, we're not robots. We need that time off. So
so in the book, I touch a little bit on some of that bit of balance. And if we're just, think about like a car, right? We talked about this before the show started as well. What happens whenever you run your truck, and you don't actually, I have been doing the preventative maintenance on it, over time, but now it's broken. Truck's in the shop. Anybody who's listening to this right now, you'll know how frustrated and perturbed I am, but it's the piece of how do we take proactive action so that, our tools, ourselves, our bodies, our minds don't get burnt out, don't get beat up, don't break entirely before we really need it. So I think it's fantastic. I'm ready for my own sabbatical. And David, I wanted to touch on a thing that you just mentioned, right? So personal board of advisors, you hit on the accountability buddy or accountability partner. Some people, you'll find this cool. Some people are now coining the term accountability buddy. So it's a little tricky to say, but it's a good one. It's gonna pick up. You talked about some of the mentorship from different people. We break it down between functional and cross-functional mentor. You talked about a coach. As you progress more senior into your career, you might have a couple of coaches, on your PBA as you're talking through it. I also want to give a quick shout out to some people that have helped me understand a lot more around coaching, right? You being one of them, Megan Woolerton, Alex Firstglove, some of the great people that, brought us together over the last few years. And it's just quite really, really remarkable. One of the things I want to give you a quick shout out on are some of your retreats, right? How you really have brought some amazing folks together and how you're looking to innovate going forward. So just a quick teaser to the listeners there. We're going to transition, quickly here into some of the final part of the show. And David, I'm going to ask you this question around, you're super busy. You're very cognizant of your time and how you spend your time, and you're very successful career in, corporate America, we'll call it, running the insurance side of the business. How in the world do you make time for mentoring in this career development? How do you do it? You as a mentor to others, you as a mentee learning from others, how do you fit that into the chaotic schedule?
Well, I think I guess I'll answer that in two ways. Number one, it's discipline, but also number two, something that you alluded to earlier, and that is intentionality. It's really important to me, and so I have it time blocked. I now have someone who manages my calendar, and I give her some of my ideal week and what it looks like and what time blocks are already in there for me. And so I put those time blocks very specifically in, especially in the morning time. That's my time to be able to read, to meditate, to journal, and to actually learn for myself. And then the mentoring part, I just put that in time blocks, depending on, whether it's a client, whether it's just somebody who's reached out to me. For example, I had a friend of mine's son just text me a day ago, and he wants to be an entrepreneur, and he just kind of wants to pick my mind. And I said, of course, I'll do that. So we're getting ready to set up a time to be able to get together and talk, and I can ask him a lot of questions. And so just you have to be very intentional with it, and you have to be very disciplined. And that's probably going all the way back into my university days. I was very disciplined with my time use because I worked. I worked my way through college, as I said, selling life insurance. And so I had to be very disciplined. I got up really early in the morning to do my studies and get my reading done. And so that discipline is, I think, so important. There's a great book by a former Navy SEAL, Jocko Willink, Discipline Equals Freedom. And, he goes into that whole concept in that book. But I think that, to me, is how you get things done is discipline and intentionality.
I love it. Now let's talk about some of the things that we can get done, maybe early career and mid-career. You talk about a lot of work with emerging leaders, and let's reflect for a couple of moments on the Pathfinders methodology, right? We've pointed to the concept of a career map, personal board of advisors. Talk about the value you see in that, David, from to an organization and to some of those individuals, early career, mid-career. Why should they be thinking about doing some of this career map and personal board with mentors?
Yeah, well, I think I love this, the idea that you've come up with and how you've really put this together cohesively, Pete, because I think that we can't go alone. This idea of this self-made person, it doesn't exist, especially in this day and age. We need each other. There's a saying that we've gone from this idea of the sage on the stage, where we're learning from one person, to somebody like me or you, who's the guide on the side, being able to almost crowdsource the knowledge that we need in our careers. And so I think the importance of having personal mentors, boards of advisors, and having some career path set out for us is so important, because we can't do it alone. And something I think I said earlier is that nothing's forever. Sometimes in years past, people set out on a career and they did that for 40 years. One of my clients, he'll be celebrating his 40th year at an organization at the end of this month. 40 years in one place.
How many watches has he gotten over the years?
Yeah, I know. And so I think that it's really important to know that you're not going to be in one place for 40 years, likely, in today's day and age. And so having that path, having those people give you different insights and give you, maybe information on your blind spots, things that you don't see, things that you could be working on, things that will help you in the future to learn and to grow. And so I think having those people around you that can help you with that is so important, just because we can't do it ourselves. We just certainly can't do it ourselves.
Well said. David, thank you so much for joining us in here today on the Pathfinders podcast. I'm going to invite you to share one closing thought, and then I'll go ahead and take us away for a quick 30-second roundup recap. So any final piece that you'd like to share with our listeners? Typically on these shows, we get anywhere between, half a dozen and half a million, monthly active listeners. I don't know where yours is going to fall in the middle there, probably on the higher side. But just keep that in mind, that there's a lot of ears listening.
Yeah, sure. Well, I here's the thing I would say is, no matter where you are in your career, continue to be a continuous learner. Continually learn, whether that's through podcasts, books, all of the above, mentors, coaches. All of those things contribute to your growth. And be willing to get outside of your own comfort zone, and be willing to be challenged, and be willing to be wrong, to be able to think you know something, but maybe change your mind on something. But being a continuous learner and having a growth mindset, to me, I believe that's probably one of the greatest skills and attributes that any leader can have. If you have a growth mindset, and if you continuously learn, you're going to go far in your career, and you're going to make a big impact. You're going to really have an impact on a lot of different people, and you're going to do a lot of good in the world. So that's my final thought.
Appreciate it, David. The growth mindset. Love that one. And let's take it away for a quick recap here. So David McGlennen, thanks for joining us. Flying high from day one, and his career continues to soar higher and higher back in the Pittsburgh area, from private pilot's license to flight instructor certification, nearly a decade of manning the aircraft, to then exploring the career path of a musician, but shifted gears pretty timely into business administration at St. Francis in Fort Wayne, Indiana. He learned about accounting and how money works. He followed the family footsteps to financial advisor after school, but then got back to the insurance agency. He was a health insurance wholesaler and was in this space for 32 years. Sold life insurance in college to get through everything, and really developed the importance of discipline there. And then graduated from that business and flying in the 90s, and had this midlife awakening. Love that term there. Impact Leadership Consulting was born. Focus on the emerging leaders, shifting from success to significance, which involves speaking, coaching. You shared the Toastmasters was super helpful. I love the idea of the annual sabbatical. Don't stop, keep it going. It's a helpful piece for you to slow down and turn off some of the working side of your mind in order to refresh and fly forward. See what we did there? It's cool to see that you have some of the PBA members that are authors along the way. You never really met them in person, but a cool different approach of some of the people that you like the way they think. You like their thought process. You make time for mentorship by time blocking and have intentionality and discipline. There it is once again, up, down, side to side. And it's important that you keep that as a priority for you. The book Discipline Equals Freedom, and this was a really cool one, right? The whole world is changing from sage on the stage to guide on the side. You got a lot of great one-liners. The personal board of advisors and planned paths together are most effective. These individuals help us see the blind spots and what we don't know that we don't know. But we do know, David, that you're somebody that we can look to for advice and guidance. Anybody that's listening still, please sign up for his Monday morning newsletter and get ready to flourish and grow together. David's a fantastic one to keep learning from. Thanks for being with us today, David.
Thanks so much, Pete. Appreciate being on